So back in the studio, thought I'd do a quick video. Something been on my mind. I've just done a long drive. It's been an 8-hour drive. Now, where this begins, this is not structured, but something I wanted to cover that was on my mind was I was listening to a post, and it was basically the big revelation for me going through all the things that I did was your feelings, my feelings, are always my responsibility. Your feelings are always your responsibility. Now, responsibility. So the thing is, when someone stirs emotion, becomes a feeling, that feeling is a downstream byproduct of our perception. Now, there's no right and wrong feelings, there's just feelings. Now, in this post, and I'll play the audio for it, I'll edit it in, but in this post, basically what he was saying is correct. He's talking about cancelling comedy because someone said that joke is offensive, and he said, no, I find that joke offensive. Now, basically what he's saying is, and this is the truth of the matter, if you be the victim in a situation, place yourself in a victim position by taking offense to something or by processing something in such a way that it creates an emotion. First of all, that emotion is an experience and it's necessary. There's no right and wrong emotion. There's emotion. Now, to be a master of energy is to be a master of emotion. And that doesn't mean that you suppress and repress or don't allow yourself to feel and have emotion. It's understanding that, processing that emotion and understanding what's actually creating the emotion in the first place is perception. And it's what we choose to perceive that then becomes an emotion. So mastering energy is mastering emotion. And if you're in a position where you perceive others to bother you emotionally, and you respond to that emotion and you allow it to come forward and affect and do things in reaction to that, you're reactive to that emotion. You're not a master of emotion. It's mastering you. And if you haven't gotten to a place where you can process, allow yourself to feel, process that emotion, and reconcile that emotion, balance that emotion, integrate its lessons, understand it, and move on, without projecting that emotion as a victim, then if you haven't done that and don't understand how to do that, you can't claim to be a master of emotion or a master of energy, because you haven't even crossed the threshold of the victim status. And the victim status in that equation, energy equation, is the very first entry level, kindergarten level of the mastery of emotion and the mastery of energy. So what I see is things happen and we interpret them, we process them in that we judge them and we label them. So in my experience, I see things that are something. I say, okay, well, that somehow stirs a response within me. Now, instead of reflecting inwards to say, why is that stirring a response to me? There's the closing off and the rejection and saying, well, no, that's a problem out there. If that problem wasn't out there, it wouldn't affect me in here. I'm the victim. And that victim status, that victim positioning is what's holding you back from progression and understanding the reflection of what you're actually seeing within yourself. Because if you take that in and say, okay, what's just happened stirred a response within me. There's something about me I need to understand. I'm going to examine myself and examine these things to look within. Then highlights to me where it is that I need to understand myself better. Because when I understand myself more completely, When I observe something happen, it doesn't stir a response in me, an acknowledgement in me of something that I need to learn. I can just observe it without responding. So if something's happening and it's stirring something within me and I'm responding to that, I'm now the victim of it. And to say that out there is the problem is disempowering of self. It's placing that responsibility for your emotional state in something external. And you have now handed over the reins of control of yourself. So what I'm saying is there is nothing that can happen that you can't understand and be grateful for or appreciative of or stay open to receiving. There's nothing that can happen that you have to close off to and reject reality. It is what it is. Therefore, if someone else is reflecting something to you that's bothering you, you need to be introspective and understand that you are always under control and you need to master yourself. You need to master your emotions so you're not a victim to those emotions. And if you're not the victim of those emotions and you understand what's stirring those emotions within yourself, you've learned to master self and you're on the conscious progression to become a more conscious whole. Because the more things we observe outside of ourselves that stir emotion within us, highlight in that what it is that we need to learn about ourselves. Once we learn about those things, once we integrate and understand them and receive and appreciate them, we then move on, because the next time we observe it, we remain the observer and not the responder, not the victim. I know this is complex. I know this seems like, what the fuck? But the point of the matter is, if someone does something and it bothers you, you're the bothered. You're the one with the problem. That's the bottom line. If someone does something that bothers you, you have the problem, not them. You. This is what's fucking hard for people to accept. So, like I said, is these things around, oh, excuse me, you know this joke, they said, oh, it's so I'm so fucking offended. Yeah, what you've just done is handed over the reins of your consciousness to someone else. You are now the victim. You are now proving you're in the kindergarten of consciousness and you haven't even made the first step in responsibility, because we are always responsible for our feelings and our response to reality. We are responsible to go within and examine self and understand ourself to make progression. If you're not willing to do that, then you have made no progress. If you're blaming those outside you, like, oh, he's done this and therefore that's not good. Okay, well, that's a judgment. That's the thing. You've proven that you're back at the start. You've just fallen back to the very start because you've rejected the reflection that you need to go inwards to own, accept, and integrate and love. By rejecting it, you've projected it out onto them to say they should change their behavior because I have an imbalanced perception of myself. I can't deal with myself, therefore reality must change. Responsibility for myself lies out there. And the problem is out there, not in here. And this is the thing. All these people who talk about manifestation and creation and doing a master of energy and all this stuff, you're not a master of anything if you haven't mastered perception and your emotional response and integration of yourself. If you haven't come to a place of complete acceptance of self, you haven't mastered shit. You're still a victim. And this progression and integrating all these parts is work and it takes time. But if you're obviously there, stuck in this thing where things external to you are bothering you, then you are stuck at the entry level, which is the victim level. Victim level consciousness, the easiest way to say it is own your shit. Because anything that outside of you that stirs a response within you is highlighting the things that you need to own and integrate and understand about yourself. Forget out there. You can't control out there. But the one thing that you have 100% control of at all times is your perception and your internal state. And that's the thing. You've got the external world, which is the effect. You've got the internal world, which is the cause. So causal, subtle, which is the causal, and external world. So the subtle world, the causal world, and the external effect. So if you want to change the effect, if you want to live in the effect, you live in the external world and you blame your external environment. If you want to live in the causal world and take control, as above, so below. Take control of your internal state, take control of the sovereignty and domain that you have within, and watch the external world change. Watch the causal world affect the world around you.